isolation, or emotional isolation to be more specific, is when you are not emotionally connecting with other people as much as you should. When you are emotionally isolated, normally that, in my experience, that only ever turns into one of two things: either loneliness, which is more frequent in my experience, or solitude. I think obviously loneliness is more common, and I think even that I can be confident that's not just my experience. Everyone's heard we are in a loneliness epidemic. Everybody says that. If we are in a loneliness epidemic, all those people that are lonely are also emotionally isolated. I think if everybody who is emotionally isolated could learn to feel solitude and not loneliness, individually their lives would get better, and I think the world would get better. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember who said it or how exactly it went, but someone said something along the lines of, all of the world's problems stem from man not being able to sit in silence with their thoughts. I don't know about all, but definitely most of the world's problems. Let's talk about identity. I don't know if this is anyone else's experience, but I don't know who I am. Every time I interact with someone, it's a performance. I mean, I'll probably talk about that more on another video. Dr. K, a YouTuber that I watch, says identity stems from emotionally charged experiences. And most people get those through relationships, but you don't have to. You can obviously have those experiences by yourself in isolation. Even more so than having those experiences in relationships, I think you can find your identity in isolation. I think it is almost better to do that. Being in isolation, alone with your thoughts. Once all of the performances stop, once you're no longer acting for anybody, the masks come off, you have really no choice but to figure out who you are. Whether that be figuring it out for the first time, like coming up with it, or discovering it like it was already there. A big part of whether or not isolation turns into loneliness or solitude is whether or not you want it, right? I mean, obviously a big part of that is whether or not it's voluntary, whether or not you chose the isolation, but even regardless of whether or not you chose it, I think if you can learn to want it, you can learn to make it into solitude a lot easier, a lot more often. And it's weird to explain to other people. Even if you don't want isolation, you do want the solitude. You want to learn how to turn it into solitude, which means you push yourself to be in isolation. And it's weird to explain to other people that you don't want to hang out with them, because it's going to reset your progress, so to speak. It's going to hinder your progress, and it won't be worth it. It's weird to tell people that your interactions with them aren't valuable enough. I mean, don't tell people that. That's obviously not nice. Maybe that's not even a good thought to have, but I think that's just how it is. If an interaction isn't worth having, I don't mean just like saying hello in the morning to someone that said good morning to you. I mean, like, if a hangout isn't worth it, then don't do it. If it is, because you obviously cannot just cut everybody off. Especially if you already have relationships with these people, that would be a complete waste. Or, well, I guess not a complete waste if you do it right, but it would be a waste. So don't do that. I think if a hangout, an interaction like that is worth it, you should still do it. Even if that's going to kind of up your tolerance of the social drug, so to speak, I think you still have to do that. I mean, how many philosophers went insane from being by themselves? Or were they by themselves because they were insane? I don't know. Either way. Another important reason to be able to turn isolation into solitude is so that you can continue to strive towards your goals regardless of the amount of attention you get from other people. When you are relying on attention from anybody, you become easily manipulated. At least I do. And that's obviously not good. Once you become okay with isolation and be able to turn that into solitude, you will find your identity, hopefully. And then that, I think, will lead to easier social interactions, because if you don't need them, they're not really going to happen. Unless the interactions are better than your solitude, you aren't going to need them because you don't need the attention. I think when you are in isolation, it's important to not drown it out. That's almost the worst of both worlds, because you're getting the overstimulation that I feel like I get from socializing, but you're also not having the discoveries or the benefits from isolation. Even though it might postpone the loneliness for a time, it isn't going to get rid of it. You have to experience loneliness enough, experience isolation enough, and at the beginning it's going to be lonely, and then eventually you can turn that into solitude. Things like going on a walk outside, just enjoying life, nature, meditating, journaling, reading a book, watching a movie, just things for yourself. Self-love or something, I don't know. I think those are important. Even if you aren't voluntarily being isolated, if you can find a way to want it, if you can find a way to be intentional about it, that should help turn it into solitude. And I don't know how long it's going to take. A YouTuber I listen to sometimes named Jet Franzen, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he said it took him about 4 months before he became really comfortable and almost preferring being alone. And I hope it doesn't take that long. Or I hope it gets easier during those 4 months, and I hope all the benefits don't come at the end of the 4 months. Thanks for listening to me out. I think that's all.
Winner!